This is probably the cleanest Yamaha Raptor 660 I've ever bought. Thing is immaculate. Check out the plastics, the tank, the frame, and this thing's a 2004. So I bought this thing for $1,000. Can't believe it. It's in excellent condition, but it doesn't run. So the seller stated he actually had this thing running like 5 years ago. He said it would run horribly. He doesn't know what's going on with it, but it would pop, backfire. He said it kind of sounded like the rev limiter was on. So he put it in storage, thought he'd get around to it, and he never did. So last week he took it out of storage, tried to fire it up, would not fire at all. So that's when he sold it. He said he tried working on it forever, just could not figure it out. So today's goal is going to be to kind of leave off where he started and diagnose this thing and hopefully get this thing to run and drive today. He also said reverse wasn't working when he was driving it, so we'll look into that as well. But I mean, it's clean, so if we can get this running and driving today, this quad is probably worth right around $3,000 the way it sits in running condition, because I don't think we have to do anything with the brakes or anything. I mean, it's immaculate. So all we have to do is focus on getting this thing running today. But this is all stock, all original. Even the parking brake works, which these never work on these. And usually these Raptor 660s are just beat. So I'm really, really surprised to see one in this good of condition. So let's go ahead and get this one off the trailer and start digging into it. See what we find. I mean, that is pretty nice. A little rust by the A-arms here, but overall, not bad. Alright, looks like it has a new petcock on it. It's on reserve. You can see gas going to it. We can choke it here. Just see what it does. Here. Give it a couple squirts here. Yeah, nothing. Guessing it's not getting gas to the carb, but we'll get this in the garage, start tearing into it, see what we find here. Alright, we got this machine in the garage. Let's start taking a look. So the first thing we want to check is the VIN. So down here, the 10th digit we're looking at. The 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 is a 4. So it's 2004, you can see right here. So this is in fact a 2004 Yamaha Raptor 660. So now that we know that, let's check the oil, see what this oil looks like. So back over here, I think on the other side there's a dipstick on the oil tank we can check. Let's see what that oil looks like. We're hoping for no flakes and we're hoping it's not milky. Ooh, that is black. That is some black oil right there. That hasn't been changed in a while. Alright, let's see the capacity. It looks like it's all the way up to the full line, or really close to the full line, so there's plenty of oil in it, but definitely needs to be changed out. Alright, let's see if there's any coolant in here. Take this hood off. That looks a little iffy as well. It's kind of dark, doesn't it? There's some in there. It might be the orange coolant that's in there. That's topped off. That's good. The oil wasn't milky, so we know that the water pump seals are good, and that most likely the head gasket's fine. All right, taking a look underneath the seat here. Not a single rip in that seat. That's amazing for being a stock seat. So you've got the airbox here, battery here. No way, look at that. Original toolkit came with it. With all the tools. I don't think I've ever seen an original toolkit with a Yamaha Raptor before. Wow. That is extremely rare to find. Very cool. In the original bag and everything. Solenoids hooked up right here. Alright, let's see what's in the airbox. Who thinks there's a filter in it? Guess we'll find out. There we go. Oh yeah, there's a filter. Like a K&N filter in there. That's pretty nice. I like the foam filters better than these, but filter doesn't look too bad. You can see K&N right there. All right, let's see if there's any gas going to the carb here. Try to get this gas line off. There we go. See if anything comes out. Alright, let's see if anything comes out. Good gas flow. Let's see if there's any water in the gas. Like I said before, the seller said that it was popping, backfiring. Sounded really bad, like it was hitting the rev limiter. Sometimes water in the gas can mimic those symptoms there, so. Yeah, it looks good, no water in the gas at all. All right, let's go ahead and get the gas tank off, gas cap off, all the plastics off, and then we can actually get to the engine. Looks like a hose here. Get to the carbs here pretty easily. Looking for any leaking from the valve cover, the head. I don't see any leaking at all. That cap is on. That can cause air leaks right there. That looks good. Spark plug is back here. Take that boot off of there. We'll see if that's on there tight. But yeah, so far no leaking from anything. No oil in the air box, nothing like that. So it's looking like the engine's pretty tight right now. Yeah, everything's looking pretty decent. No leaking out of the pipes though. Looks pretty darn good. That's the reverse switch. That's working. Let's check out this boot. See if we're getting good connection there. Feels like it was on there pretty good. Ooh, I don't see any wire coming out of there at all. We're gonna cut that back just a hair. Just a little bit. 1/4 of an inch. Cut that back. And now you can see the wire is exposed. Now we get our boot back on. Alright, then we can get that plug out of there. So. Actually looks perfect. Check that out. Look at how nice and brown that tip is. So it looks like it was jetted correctly. Yeah, that's really good. Alright, let's see if we get any spark. Here we go, turn it on. See if we get anything. Oh yeah. Really good spark. Very consistent. That looks really, really good. So we have spark. Do we have compression? So this machine has an automatic decompression release on the cam. Right around 90 to 100 psi, we shouldn't see if the decompression mechanism is actually working. If it's not working, it should be like 180. So we'll see. See what we get. And we can put a jumper pack on the battery too. Might help it out a little bit. All right, we want to do throttle open when testing compression, so that will give us the best reading here. Let's see. There, you guys can see. So we're looking right in that range there. All right, throttle open. Here we go. Yeah, we're at like 110, so that's perfect. That means that the decompression mechanism is actually working. All right, because the seller said this thing doesn't start up and we saw that it doesn't, I want to quick check the valves. The compression tells us that the valves are probably fine, but sometimes the intake valves can be a little bit tight and make for hard starting. So let's just quick check that out, and then we can actually check to see if the woodruff key broke off of the flywheel here. That can cause timing to be off, and it would be sparking at the wrong time, also causing a no start situation. So we can check both those things out. These caps have to come off. I don't think they've ever been taken off. They're not dinged up at all. Usually these are all scratched up and dinged up, and they look brand new. You can see a little oil coming out of there. So they're pretty easy to take off. What we're gonna do first is check and see if that woodruff key is sheared off. I've seen a lot of these have that problem, and that causes this machine not to run. So we're gonna rotate this engine until we see a T up here, and that will be top dead center. And what we're gonna do is go up to the spark plug hole and see if the piston is at the top of the cylinder. If it's at the top of the cylinder, we know that the flywheel key, the Woodruff key, hasn't moved or sheared off. If the piston's at the bottom of the cylinder at top dead center, we know that something's going on with that flywheel. So let's rotate this engine over. Rotate this engine over. We're looking for a T or a line. Looks like it's just going to be a line. I'll quick show you guys. So on the flywheel, there's going to be a double line there. You can kind of see. See, there's two lines, kind of like an H. And then there's going to be a single line after that one. Right there. Let me zoom in so you guys can see. Hopefully you guys can see that. A single line after it. You want to line up that single line with the notch in the case right there. You don't want to be on the H. You want to be on that single line. That is your top dead center. And the notch on the case is right there in that little hole. Check out the spark plug hole and see if there's a piston at the top of it. So just stick a screwdriver down here. And the piston's right at the top there. I can feel it. You can also take like a straw, a plastic straw, and watch it move up and down as you get to top dead center. But yeah, the piston's right at the top of the cylinder. So that tells us that the Woodruff key is not sheared off on the flywheel. All right, we can get our valve cover cap off here. And there's two down here for the exhaust. It's usually the intake valves that get tight on these, so we'll check them. Let's get a feeler gauge in there and see if they're all within clearance here. All right, according to the manual, intake valve clearance is going to be 4 to 6 thousandths of an inch. I don't know if that's going to be enough. So we've got our 5 thousandths feeler gauge here. Try to stick that in. That's tight. That's tight. Tight. Let's go down to 3 thousandths of an inch. See if that slides in. Tight. Tight. That one slides in. So these two are tight. So those are less than 3 thousandths, so these definitely need to be adjusted. Go down to 2 thousandths of an inch. That one slides in. That one's tight. Obviously that one slides in. So this one is almost at 0. So we're going to adjust these to 5 thousandths of an inch, and then we'll get the exhaust caps off and check those. Alright, so we're going to adjust all these. They're all a little bit tight. The middle one was the tightest at less than 2 thousandths of an inch. Those are on there. Alright, we're going to set these to 5 thousandths of an inch. Twist out the little center part. Get your feeler gauge in there. Tighten that center part so it just rubs on that feeler gauge. See that? It's just getting caught. And we can tighten that nut. That center piece is probably going to move just a little bit when we tighten this up. Okay. See if we can still get in there. That is perfect. Okay, same with the center one. Okay, let's see. That looks good. And the third one. Okay, let's see. That one's a little bit loose. So redo that one. Ouch. Looks good. Tighten these all up one more time. Alright, we'll check them one last time here. Just rubs. Alright, those are perfect now. All set to 5/1000ths of an inch. It's kind of hard to see in here, but you can hear them click. So I think these are going to be fine. Hear them clicking? We can measure them just in case. So we're going to set our feeler gauge to 7 and see if it slides in. Pretty sure these are going to be fine. The exhaust valves rarely get tight here. Oh yeah, it just slides in. Perfect. Oh yeah, just slides in. See that? So those exhaust valves are perfectly within spec. So now we have all the valves within spec. Let's do another compression test, see if the compression shot up at all. A little bit harder. See what we get. Again, throttle open here. We had 110 last time, so let's see what we get. Yeah, compression shot up. So that was affecting it. It's a good thing we adjusted those. We were getting like 105 to 110 last time, now we're 120. So that definitely shot up. All right, now we have good compression and good spark. So let's try moving on to the carbs. This is a dual carb setup, so both of these come out at the same time. We have to get the clamps off and then these carbs can pull out of here. So these are CV carbs that have diaphragm. These come off. All right, air box can kind of move back a little bit. Get one of these off. There we go. Now these carbs should come off of here. There we go. The carbs on these aren't too bad to get out. Now we just have to deal with all the leaking gas. The choke and the throttle cable has to come off. So it's a 12mm. Twist that out. Let's see if that's working. Yep. Pulling in, pulling out. Now this whole thing can actually twist out of here. There we go. Alright, carbs are free. Alright, so a bunch of gas poured out of them. I'm sure there's still quite a bit more. We're going to do one carb at a time, so starting off with the right carb here. Alright, here we go. Let's see what's going on. Ooh, lots of gas poured out. Looks pretty clean. Looks really clean. Lots of gas in there. Air floats out right away. Whole thing can lift right out. Alright. Needle coming out of here. Looks good. Shutting off the gas, that's for sure. Float feels good. Alright. Let's go ahead and get our main jet out. Let's see if that's clear. Oh, that's huge. A 145 main. That looks bigger than a 145 to me. That hole is huge. Yeah, we're gonna have to look at a different jet and see. That almost looks like it was drilled out. I'll take a look. Pilot coming out. I'm guessing this is the culprit right here. Oh yeah, I can already tell it's heavily clogged. Yep, pilot's clogged. We've got a 22.5 pilot. Oh, that's clear. Emulsion tube. Looks good. And there's the fuel screw sitting right here. So it turns out we're 1, 2, 2 1/4. Get this out of here. Should be a little spring in there. Looks good. And there's an O-ring. Alright, I'm thinking there's something up with the diaphragm. We're gonna find out right now. The spring was in there, that's good. That looks pretty good. That's a pretty thin diaphragm. Needle's not moving up and down. Sometimes these needles can come loose and move up and down in here, and then you'll have really sporadic idling and running. It won't run right. So we're looking for any cracks or rips in the diaphragm, any holes. This one looks really good. Not seeing any issues with that at all. It's not weather checked at all. Nice and rubbery yet. So that diaphragm looks awesome. So really the only issue with the carb was that pilot that was clogged up a little bit. And I think that's just from sitting for, I think the guy said 5 years. But carb looked pretty clean. Definitely used non-ethanol gas, that's for sure. But yeah, that carb looked pretty good. We're gonna blow through that one, clean that one out, and then move on to the next one. All right, and I compared this to a 155 main right here, and the hole looks very similar, so I don't think that is too big or anything. Just seemed big to me for some reason. All right, left carb. Let's see what's going on. Hopefully it's just as good as the right carb. Oh man, that was on there. We'll go through this one pretty quick. I believe the right and the left carb have different sized jets. From what I can remember, I'm working on these. Pretty sure that's the case. Oh, there's a little gunk in there. Not too bad. Alright, float coming out right away. That needle looks good. Let's get our pilot out. I can see some rust sitting down there. Or something. Piece of something. Looked kind of like rust. Alright, let's see what the pilot size is here. 22.5. And that one was also clogged. Yeah. So that was probably the starting issue. Here's a little starter jet. That one was clear. Here, coming out. This one is clear, and this one's a 140. So I believe the other one was a 145. Looks good. Through here, we are 1, 2, 2.5. Washer came with it. There's a little O-ring in there you can dig out. This tool works great for doing that. You can just get in there and pull that little O-ring out, and you can see. Got this from Harbor Freight. I'm guessing it's fine, but since we're already in here, we may as well check it. Alright, spring looks good. Feel that needle, doesn't move. Alright, we're looking for any rips, cracking, or holes. And looks perfect. So left carb, same thing as the right, just had that clogged pilot. Everything else looked good. So we're gonna look up the jet size we're supposed to have for these things and then possibly rejet it. But I'm guessing the jet size in there is accurate for the machine, so we might just leave it, and then when we take it for the first test drive, we might bring some jets along because we might have to rejet it. So it looks like we are running with stock jetting. So the left carb is supposed to have a 140 main and the right carb is supposed to have a 145, and that's what we had. And then both have 22.5 for the pilot. So we are stock jetting on these carbs. So we can put this back in and hopefully this thing fires up. All right, we got the carb back on, air box back on. Let's drain out this oil and add some fresh oil to it. This can take 10W40. Let's see what the capacity is. I don't think it's anywhere on here, but we gotta drain out the oil tank and the engine. Oil drain bolt's gonna be right on the side, the left-hand side, right there. That big bolt there. Alright, gonna take our wrench down here, loosen that up a little bit. Alright, you can see it draining out. It's pretty black in there. So we'll inspect the oil. Hopefully we don't have any chunks. I don't see any on the bolt here. So far it looks pretty decent. We'll check and see what the oil tank looks like too. So the oil, I'm smelling it right now. It smells really, really burnt. So that's not a great sign. The oil tank has a bolt underneath there too. Kind of hard to see, but it's right underneath there. So let's drain that out next. There we go. No chunks on that bolt either. Looks good. But man, does that oil really smell burnt. Alright, you can see how black that oil is. It's really dark. And it smells really, really burnt. Take our magnet, kind of go through it. Nothing. At least nothing on the magnet. So I don't see any metallic flakes or anything in there. I think we're gonna be good. All right, this machine takes 2.3 quarts of 10W40. We are going to add 1 1/4 quarts to this tank, start it up, and then add the rest. If it fires up. We don't know if it will. But this tank can only hold a little more than a quart. All right, 1 quart in, and just a little of the next one. And then we'll attempt to fire this thing up. Hopefully she fires here. All right, let's get the gas tank back on here. All right, here we go. First start attempt. Let's see what the heck happens. We've got the valves adjusted. We have good compression, we have good spark. And now we've got the carbs cleaned out with the pilots cleared out. It should fire up. We'll see. I'm gonna choke on. Go. Choke is on. Fired up instantly, but it's not revving out. Check this out. Doing exactly what the guy said. Choke is off too. That's full throttle. Yeah. That is not good. Not good at all. We're gonna add the rest of the oil before we run this too long, but we're gonna have to diagnose that. I'm thinking it could possibly be like the safety switch here for the parking brake possibly. I think that's right here. That might not be going in all the way or contacting or be bad, but that can trigger the machine not to rev past a certain RPM. It's kind of what it sounds like. It's really breaking up bad. It's not revving out at all. But yeah, the seller wasn't kidding. It's definitely not revving out. It definitely sounds like it's hitting a rev limiter. All right, we've got all the oil in it now. Let's give it another start, see what it does. We'll let this thing warm up, see if it gets better. If not, I'm guessing it's some sort of safety switch on here. Hopefully, we'll see. Still doing the same thing. You give it throttle, backfires, barely revs out. Sounds absolutely horrible. So coming over here, there's a switch here that might not be making contact. See how that's kind of loose in there? See that? There's like a lot of play. That has to be fully closed for that switch to be closed. So maybe that's just not closing all the way. We had that before in a different quad. Let's try that. Hold it shut. Try revving it up. That was the problem. Now it's working. What the heck? So I pushed that in. I wonder if the pins in here are stuck a little bit because I pushed it in all the way. Now it's working good. Now let's see if I shut it off and start it back up. See what happens. Now let's see if yeah, see it's going back to doing that. See? So it is the parking brake. And you can see it doesn't come back all the way. Now it's doing that again. Oh, there we go. Yeah, something is really touchy in here. So you pull this in. See that? Then you push that in just a little bit more. Oh. See, it's really finicky. See, now it revs out completely when you push it all the way in. But now, you do the parking brake again. See that? Now push that in. So let's take that apart, clean up those connectors. Luckily, it's just the parking brake. You can see the play in there. Causing issues, so let's take this out, clean that up. So that's the little pin that pushes in and out. So if that's out at all, this bike will run horrible. It needs to be pushed in all the way to make contact. So I'll show you guys. Start this thing up. See, it runs horrible. It's running really bad. Then we'll push it in. Revs out. Release it. runs horrible. Push it in. It revs out completely. But that feels good. So I don't think it's a problem with the actual switch. I think it's a problem with this piece right here not going all the way back. I don't know if this is really worn out or what. I think it's missing like a spacer in there. Look at the diameter of the screw compared to the diameter of that. So that's why you have so much play in there. See that's why it can come back that much. You need like a little spacer in here. It's missing that. So if you had a spacer, it'd come all the way back like that. See, that's centered. But now it can come all the way like that because the screw is a smaller diameter than that huge hole. So let's try to find like a little spacer for that screw. I think that'll fix our problem. Alright, put a little spacer in there, just a plastic spacer. See how it makes that diameter the same diameter as that hole. So now when we line that up, we shouldn't have a space in here. Doesn't spring back. See, that should spring back like that, but at least it'll hold it in place there, I think. Let's see. So now it's completely closed. Try to fire this thing up. Yeah, revs out completely. Push that back. Yup, revs out completely. So now that doesn't move at all. There's no space between there anymore. The only problem is you have to manually shut it now. You have to go like that, but at least she revs out and we won't have that problem anymore. Well, I think it's fixed. That sounds a lot better. Alright, let's see if this thing goes through all the gears. The seller also said reverse does not work, so let's see if we can fix that. This has to be the best running Raptor 660 I've ever owned. It is running flawlessly. Thing is extremely powerful. Really, really fast. And the best part is it looks awesome. I mean, the cleanest one I've ever owned and the best running one I've ever owned. I think the owner didn't put a whole lot of hours onto this thing. So let's go test out reverse, see if that works. Does kind of stop. That might be like a reverse override. Alright, so reverse is working, it's just not revving out completely in reverse. And there's actually a rev limiter, a reverse rev limiter on this machine, and it's right underneath here is where the switch is. You can see the black plug-in right down here. The neutral one is right above it, but it's this black plug. So what we're going to do is try to unplug that, plug it back in, and see if that helps. Maybe it's corroded underneath there, not making a good connection, but that needs to be connected to ground when in reverse. So if that's not grounding out in reverse, you're going to have that limited rev, and you can bypass it by just grounding it out, but you won't have the reverse light if you do that. And it looks pretty clean. Take some brake cleaner to spray that down. And then the inside of the switch as well. So reverse light's on. As you can see, we should have 12 volts when hitting the switch, and the positive up here. We're getting 0.5 volts. So that should be grounded out. Let's see if there's continuity between this and the engine. Nope. So that switch is not working. So what we can do to bypass that is ground out that switch, or this wire here. So we can follow this wire up and see where it goes. Alright, you're going to look for the green and white wire there. It's going to be right next to that blue wire. The blue wire is the neutral wire. The green and white is for the reverse rev limiter. It's going to connect down in here to that connector. So I unplug that. We're going to splice into that green and white, and then we're going to put that to ground. Alright, we've got our wire spliced into the green and white wire. We're going to put this wire up by the battery on the negative terminal. Alright, we have that connected to the negative terminal of the battery, spliced in underneath here. Let's see if reverse works. You can see neutral light still works. Let's see if we put it in reverse, what happens here. Yeah, see, reverse light doesn't come on. That means it should be working. Alright, we're going to see if it can go in reverse uphill. That's the real test. Well, it looks like the reverse is now fixed. So we were able to bypass that reverse rev limiter with the ground wire going to the green and white wire. So that bypassed everything, and now it goes good in reverse. And we were going uphill. That's a good test. So we were able to go any speed in reverse. The only thing that is a bummer is that the reverse light doesn't turn on when you go in reverse because of that bypass. So just take note, if you guys do that to your machine, your reverse light's not gonna work. But yeah, everything else is all fixed up. It starts right up every time. Idle's perfect. So not a single issue with this thing. We got this initially in non-running condition. We got this thing running today, and the seller had stated that it was popping and backfiring, running horribly, and he could never fix it. And we found that the safety switch for the brake, parking brake, was very finicky and loose. So this piece right here was probably wobbling around in there, hitting the switch off and on, and that was the problem. So we got that secured, fixed the problem. Now it revs out completely. So the seller just overlooked that simple fix, which is very easy to do if you don't know what you're looking for. So all we had to do was clean up the carb, get those pilot jets cleared out, and then adjust those valves, those intake valves, and then obviously fix that switch. And now it's in perfect running condition. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video, fixing up this 2004 Yamaha Raptor 660. We got pretty lucky on this one, and turned out to be a pretty easy fix. Not all of them are like that. A lot of them I buy are full rebuilds you need, so we got pretty lucky. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Stay tuned for next video, and until next time, we are out.